Hi, I'm Walrus. Welcome to my Elden Ring lore stream. Um, in this series, we're basically going to be trying to play through the entire game uh, and talk a little bit about the lore, and in particular, the myth and history from the real world that might have inspired it. I'm going to be stealing shamelessly from a bunch of other content creators. I'll try to call them out as they come up. But anyway, that's sort of the idea. We're going to attempt to do all bosses, all dungeons. We don't have long until the DLC comes out. So one of the main things I want to do is talk about DLC and sort of make some predictions and then be wrong. I think that'll be really fun to be proven wrong instantly. I'm not much good at character creators, so we're not going to spend a long time on character creation. But I did want to talk a little bit about a few of these presets because they're sort of interesting. So we have the warrior, the most common face among the tarnished. After all, they were all warriors once. We have the northerners, who are supposedly descended from giants. The seafarers. There appears to be some nautical stuff in the upcoming DLC. And we'll get to that pretty quick here. We've got the Reedlanders from the lands of reeds. Draconian, people of the ancient dragons, among who life is typically short, which is sort of interesting because it doesn't really seem like, based on the lore, that it seems like the dragons might have predated humans, so that's sort of an interesting bet. Nightfolk, there's a mention of them bleeding silver. We're going to find out that's important. And then the Newman, which is where sort of the goddess of this world comes from, and it says denizens of another world, long live but seldom born. But we're gonna go let's do with the Draconian, because that sounds like fun. And yeah, let's just jump right on in.
The fallen leaves tell a story. The great Elden Ring was shattered. In our home, across the fog, the lands between. Now, Queen Marika the Eternal is nowhere to be found. And in the night of the Black Knives, Godwyn the Golden was first to perish. Soon, Marika's offspring, demigods all, claimed the shards of the Elden Ring. The mad taint of their newfound strength triggered the shattering. A war from which no lord arose. A war leading to abandonment by the greater will. Oh, rise now, ye tarnished, ye dead who yet live. The call of long-lost grace speaks to us all. Horalu, chieftain of the Badlands, the ever-brilliant Gold Mask. Fear, the deathbed companion, the loathsome Dung-Eater, and Sir Gideon Othmere, the all-knowing. And one other, whom grace would again bless. A tarnished of no renown. Cross the fog to the lands between. To stand before the Elden Ring and become the Elden Lord.
Alright, so that's pretty typical if you're not familiar with FromSoft. That's a pretty typical FromSoft opening. They just throw a ton of proper nouns at you, and that's basically the whole context that you get for the game. A lot of times you can go through the full game and never, meet some of the characters that are mentioned, or go to some of the places that are mentioned. But the short version is that there was a big old war between the gods. It destroyed the world. It was kicked off by the murder of the queen's son. And that's very similar to Norse myth of Balder and ultimately of Ragnarok. So basically what we're here to do is to stop or reverse the apocalypse. Which is very interesting stuff. It could be a challenge, but fortunately we're going to be given Finger Maiden. That sounds dirty, but what it actually is a holy woman who's able to divine the intent of the fingers. So with her help, we'll be able to do what we need to do. But there she is the punchline. She is dead already, and we have this message: though the path be broken and uncertain, claim your place as Elden Lord. So, that's how this sort of game goes. Is not can't have anything. And there we have our giant tree, which is sort of the central object of the game. Also, kind of a Norse reference. You can see this statue has metal work that appear to be like vines creeping up it. It's a very distinctive statue. I want us to note it a little bit just because we're going to be able to see it again in a few minutes, and it's going to help us sort of place where we end up. Here's our first image of Queen Marika, sort of in the crucifixion pose. and we're going to lose this fight. It might be fun to try to win it, but we don't have a ton of spare time. If we're going to try to do every boss, so let's just let him drop us. Remember that splash. I'm going to get weird about water as this goes on. Notice the gold, sort of, they're showing us the gold in Torrent's horns there. That's the only good look we get at that.
Fortune is on her side. We found her here after all. One of her kind is sure to seek the Elden Ring. Even if it does violate the Golden Order.
More nouns. Cave of Knowledge lies below. Brave Tarnish, take the plunge of learning and remembrance. Recall the arts of war in your warrior's blood. Yes, so usually I'd skip this, but I did say all bosses, and this one has a big old tough boss for us to fight, and that's so I want to look at the main way that things are going to be explained in this game is through item descriptions. So for instance, this item description says, when the Elden Ring was shattered, these seeds flew from the Erdtree, scattering across the various lands as if life itself knew that its end had come. So we're going to be able to find others of those seeds. And we don't have any spells right now, so we don't need mana. We also don't have anything for our offhand, so we may as well wield this two-handed. I started as a wretch, just so that when the DLC comes out, I'm going to have some flexibility in what build I want to do, because I have no idea. I also haven't really locked down a build for this run, to be honest. I had a build planned out. Based on the idea that the true final boss was going to be Godwin, or someone that was death affiliated. The more I think about that, the more I think that's unlikely to happen, so I'm going to have to come up with something else. just a quick note on, I guess, sort of difficulty settings, for lack of a better term. I am not great at this game, especially given how long I've spent playing it. But there's a lot of stuff I'm going to do to make the game easier. The main one being, if this is an all bosses run, we're just going to get massively overleveled. The other being that I'm not above using just wildly cheap stuff. I'll start with the Bloodhound's Fang in a little while here. But also, I'm going to be using every sort of golden NPC summon that I can, even if it makes the fight stupid. That's just because this is more of a lore playthrough than a show off how good I am at Elden Ring playthrough. And I consider the fact that those NPCs fight with you in those battles to be part of that lore. It does make some of the fights just trivial, but that's the way I've decided to go. I'm not planning to use spirit summons, just not because I'm opposed to them, just because sometimes I think that they make the game a little more visually interesting if you don't use them. If I get super stuck just for the sake of time, I will go ahead and use a spirit summon, but I'm hoping not to. But like, this fight might get me stuck. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, that was rough, but we persevered. The other thing is that I'm going to be doing slight region lock, not strict, but there are places that I want to go before others. I want to sort of play through this in a way that creates the best story possible. And that means sometimes not going and getting like an optimal item immediately. Though again, I haven't quite locked down my build on this, so I don't know exactly what an optimal item would be. We'll also prioritize getting this poor lady pants. Okay, so a lot has been made of this like opening shot, and I don't want to dwell on it, but there's so much cool stuff here. So for instance, you remember that distinctive statue I mentioned? I said to remember it because it's over there. That's where we started. That's Stormvale Castle. That's our first sort of objective. That's the Erdtree. That's going to be our second, like, sort of objective. And then way, way off in the distance, right above my head, you can see the mountaintop of the Giants, which is where we'll end our main story quest journey. We're actually going to get there about halfway through this playthrough. And then you can see, I think, most of these divine towers. Off in the distance, you can see the Bestial Sanctum. You can see a bunch of these minor Erdtrees. Oh look, the moon and one of the moons and the sun are both out. But anyway, that's it's a very cool way to sort of lay out the whole game right at the start. We also see this guy being crucified with a pose that's similar to how we saw America at the beginning of the game, and this non-sketchy surgeon man here.
Oh yes, tarnished are we? come to the lands between for the Elden Ring? Of course you have. No shame in it. Unfortunately for you, however, you are maidenless. Without guidance, without the strength of runes, and without an invitation to the Round Table Hold, you are fated, it seems, to die in obscurity. Luckily for you, however, there is one shining ray of hope for even the maidenless. Me, Varre. Take care to listen. Are you familiar with grace? The golden light that gives life to you tarnished. You may also behold its golden rays, pointing in a particular direction at times. That is the guidance of grace, the path that a tarnished must travel. Indeed. Grace's guidance holds the answers. It will lead you tarnished to the path you are meant to follow, even if it leads you to your grave. Grace's guidance will reveal the path forward, most certainly, to Castle Stormvale, over on the cliff, the home of the decrepit demigod, Godrick the Grafted. It's time you set off, I should think, to Castle Stormvale on the cliff, where Grace would guide you, if you seek the Elden Ring, maidenless as you are.
So we're not going to talk a lot about Varre right now because he'll be important later. But important to note that he is one of the prime suspects for the person who murdered your maiden. It's a little weird that he just shows up immediately at the start of the game, knows that your maiden is dead, and offers you all of this assistance. There's reasons to think that that's not the person who did it, but that's one of the prevailing theories, is that he was the murderer. There isn't really a canon answer. No one really knows why the lady's dead.
You're a tarnished. I can see it. And I can also see that you're not after my throat. Then why not purchase a little something? I am Kale. I am of a nomadic people, selling wares as I travel. The land has been tainted by madness since the shattering of the Elden Ring. It's only tarnished like yourself, who keep things from drying up entirely. Let's say you're a very welcome customer. You know, if you can spare the runes, you should buy yourself a crafting kit. A crafting kit allows you to make basic items on your own. Essential, really, if you intend to survive out here for any duration. The kit costs a bundle, and I admit I do take my cut. But the important thing is that you survive. Every customer counts, after all. I'm glad you took my warning to heart. You've made an excellent choice.
Okay. Actually, if you're watching this playthrough as any sort of guide, you should buy the crafting kit just because it gives you access to stuff and it's actually not that expensive. But crafting is not super useful in this game. Hey, look, a dog. I am playing offline because I don't want to be spoiled on some of the DLC stuff. So we're gonna miss all the meme messages and hidden path aheads and fortnights. Which is just a cost I'm willing to pay. Thought maybe I could pull one. Unbelievable already. That's a little embarrassing, honestly. Maybe if this lady had pants. Unbelievable. I think there's one more back here. Yep. No, there's not. Most of these side dungeons tell a little story. This one's pretty simple. There were dudes here, they got attacked by wolves. The wolves took over the area. Why were the wolves all sort of packed together like this? Well, because they had a sentient leader. There we go. Don't get me, I'll yell back. Whoops. Alright, and we got our first talisman, which we'll go ahead and equip. If you look at this, it's a picture of like a burning dragon, but it also looks weirdly like the map. And I mean, not the map right now. The map right now is useless. But the map, once it's completely filled out, it doesn't look exactly like it. There's a lot of differences actually, but sort of you can see a few landmarks. You can see what appears to be. It does look a little like the world. There are lots of stories in myth about the creation of the world that posit that the world was created from a corpse. Norse myth includes that, but so do myths from Mesopotamia. I think Egyptian myth might include that, I'm not sure. The idea that the world was created from a corpse. And like I said, the big one is Mesopotamia, where it was Tiamat's corpse. So.
Wait, well, you're back.
Let's go ahead and get this woman a shield. And we need the torch. And I want this for staring at the landscape instead of playing the game. And yeah, that'll do it.
There are others of my people who yet survive in these lands. If the mood takes you when you meet one, then offer them some trade, won't you? My people, wanderers all have long been spurned by the grace of gold, which is why we cannot settle, but instead are forced into this pitiful, unceasing journey. But thanks to that, things are not so different for us now, though the Elden Ring is shattered. I think this makes us kindred spirits of sorts. Your people, the Tarnished, and mine.
Kale is a real bro.
Perhaps you don't need to hear this, but see that no harm comes to my kin. We have a saying, we wanderers, lament not your solitude. Expect no sympathy, no regard, nothing. But if anyone dares harm us, show them no mercy. That is our code, so to speak. Just the way we are, deeply unforgiving. Goodbye.
So, the ideal, or the not ideal, the efficient way to play is to murder all of the merchants, because then you get an item called their bell bearing. You can take them all to one NPC who will just have all their shops, so they won't be scattered to the winds. They'll just all be in one place. Obviously, I'm not going to be doing that because it's monstrous, and I'm trying to do sort of a lore thing. But that is an option if you are, you know, a bad person. So here we have some sort of guide who's got this candle that I suspect is burning what the game calls ghost flame, trying to guide us back to, it said trying to guide us back to the roots. What it actually does is those statues lead to special dungeons called catacombs. We're about to do one now, that's why I went over to it. And those catacombs are sort of final resting places for spirits in this, in the current order. That's where spirits are supposed to end up. Notice also, we'll talk about this in just a couple episodes, but notice also all the ruins just strewn around the ground. And the monster that we just fought being the Beastman of Farum Azula. The ruins come from a temple in the sky. Oh, let's go ahead and equip our shield before we just rush in. So this shield is not my favorite shield in the game, but it is the easiest one to get. A proper death means returning to the Erdtree. Have patience until the time comes and the roots call to you. So these spirits, you can see these tiny little mushrooms growing up around them. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the alchemy references in this game, but one of the big ones is the idea that life all comes from sort of a similar source, so they sort of mix up whether life is plant or animal or fungus or whatever. You know, it's a little ambiguous in this game. We'll talk about that a little later. But first, behind every wall in a Souls-like is a monster trying to ambush you. But anyway, he mentioned returning to the roots. And one of the big ideas of this current order in the Lands Between is that life is supposed to return to the roots of the Great Tree, or the roots of the Erdtree. And here we actually have a mural that sort of depicts this. You can see at the bottom we've got these souls like going into the roots of the tree, and then at the top you can see the same souls getting sort of expelled out of its branches. And this is the cycle of death and rebirth under the Golden Order. There is no true death. You die, the roots take you, and then you are reborn. And I said I was going to try to call people out when I was blatantly stealing content from them. There is a lore creator called Tarnished Archaeologist, who you should check out, not even if you're a fan of Elden Ring, just like if you're a fan of history and mythology and that sort of thing, you should check him out. But he theorizes that when it says people are reborn through the Erdtree, it's being extremely literal. That literally their bodies get sucked into the tree and then they are born out of the branches again. Not like their souls are processed in the tree or something like that, but that they themselves, in their entirety, are reborn literally through the tree. This is why oh shoot, I haven't rested. I have no health. That's fine. That's fine. This is why I bought those throwing daggers. Because I don't want to try to fight like 6 of these guys all at the same time. Man, if I manage to get through this whole dungeon with 0 flasks, it really is going to do wonders for my confidence in being able to pull this off. That seems, you know, unlikely, but we'll see how it goes. For the record, there is no earthly reason for me to be doing this bit right now. Well. Yeah, I think if I survive, I will go back to the bonfire and rest before the, or the grace and rest before the boss. Our reminder that if there's a blind corner, there's a monster on the other side. Shoot. Almost made it. So yeah, the good news is we aren't going to have to do a lot of the dungeon over, because we've already most of it was optional anyway, and we've already done we've changed the devices and everything. Another sort of beginner tip. Nope. That thing that happens where you get let yourself get hit on the shield and then you do an immediate guard counter. Massively broken while you're in Limgrave. Basically every enemy in Limgrave you can do that with, and if you survive the onslaught, I suppose, you break their stance and can counterattack or do a crit attack. There he is. Again, I don't remember where all the enemies are. I just know that if there's a blind corner in a Souls-like game, that there's going to be a monster behind it. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's one of the main sources of lore is these spirit ashes. Again, I'm going to try not to use these, but we'll see how it goes. Ashes remain in which spirits yet dwell, or ashen remains in which spirits yet dwell, used to summon the spirits of 5 wandering nobles. The spirits of nobles who after death now wander the lands between. Surely they were in search of something once, but whatever it has been long forgotten. You're going to see these nobles all through the world, and what they're always doing is sort of scratching in the ground, digging for something. It's worth asking. I don't know what they're digging for, but they're all over the world looking for that stuff. So here you can see this guy has a very similar sort of getup to the dudes in the front and to the dude that sort of led the way here. I think this guy's name is Rosas. I'm not sure, but you see his statues all over the place. I'm also not sure that the guide who leads us here is the same as that dude. I'm just speculating that it is. Sometimes this guy can catch me out, just because he moves very strangely. But yeah, you can see, like, I'm doing my best, but this is definitely not going to be like a no-hit, no-duds run. It already isn't, actually. Okay, and this is my favorite Spirit Ash. Used to summon the spirit of a noble sorcerer, spirit of a nobleman who was once asked to be given a place at Raya Lucaria to learn glintstone sorceries. His talents were insufficient to be worthy of donning the stone crown, and he is only capable of using the most rudimentary sorcery. If you summon the guy, he will cast a single spell. It's called Glintstone Pebble. It's just this little, like, shot that, like, hits the bad guy. And it's actually not a bad spell if you learn it to, like, start out with, but he's awful. Like, he's got no health. I love him. And, like, the item description very clearly says he's just an absolute failure at the thing that he's trying to do. Again, we'll come back to these ruins at some point. Let's actually rest at a grace this time before doing the next bet. Do you have pants? Pants for this lady? No. No pants for this lady. Well, odds are decent that we'll get pants up here. You might ask, hey, why are these guys trying to kill us? There are better and worse answers for that, for various enemies throughout the game, but here, there's actually a pretty good answer. They're, soldiers of the demigod we're going to fight, and they're hunting us. Because we're useful to that demigod in a really particular way. in a decent pair of pants. So this is probably my favorite early weapon. It has a little bit of extra crit to it. I can't use it right now, unfortunately. I'm going to have to unlock leveling first. But it has a little bit of extra crit to it. And it also tends to break stances pretty easily. So I wouldn't say that it's like a fantastic weapon, but you can get it in the first, 10 minutes of the game if you want to. And it gets the job done for sure. For those of you who know what the hell I'm talking about, I kind of want to do a Godskin or a Black Flame build. But I don't know how viable those are. The reason I want to do a Black Flame build is because I suspect that the Godskin are going to be implemented into the DLC. So I look forward to being super wrong about that. But that's sort of where I think I'm sort of taking the build in that direction. So I'm going to be, to start out, pouring a bunch of points into Dex and Strength just to be able to use probably Bloodhound Fang to start with until I can get something better. But I'll probably end up respeccing, I don't know, Strength Faith or something. They clearly laid this particular dungeon out, or this particular ruin out, as a sort of proof of concept of the stealth mechanics, and then never cared about the stealth mechanics again. I thought I could get that guy's attention, but apparently not. Shoot. So the club, I don't love using the club, but it does stagger super well. The Skull Pinata has a rune in it that I don't care this much about. This sigil we're going to see in a few different places. Very clearly not Godrick's sigil. Or shouldn't be. This lion isn't really associated with Godrick. It's associated with Godrick's, like, great-great-great-great-grandfather, Godfrey, who was actually, like, a worthy I don't want to pull both of those guys at the same time. Who was actually like a worthy warrior, whereas Godrick is frankly a little sad. Shoot! Okay, we're fighting the big dude now. If he keeps letting me do this, it's going to be a piece of cake. What? Kept letting me do that? Every ruin has at least one steps leading down to the basement. If you can't find it, it might be under a hidden wall or something. But every single ruin has a basement with a treasure chest, or with something. Okay, I think I have cleared that at least enough that we can move on. And here we have our first sword monument. Each of these monuments are usually supposed to commemorate some sort of historical battle or something. And we get a little piece of lore when we check them. This one says, Godrick the Golden, humiliated, having tasted defeat by the blade of Mikola, now on his knees begging for mercy. And this is a theme we're going to see again and again and again, where Godrick is just the most pathetic, like, little dude. He's just cowardly and stupid and useless. Note the
Greetings,
three-pronged
from beyond the fog. I am Melina.
Note the three-pronged claw mark over her left eye.
I offer you an accord. Have you heard of the Finger Maidens? They serve the two fingers, offering guidance and aid to the tarnished. But you, I am afraid, are maidenless. I can play the role of maiden, turning runes into strength to aid you in your search for the Elden Ring. You need only take me with you to the foot of the Erdtree. Then it's settled. Summon me by grace to turn runes into strength. Ah, another matter. I bequeath to you this ring. Use it to traverse great distances. It will summon a spectral steed named Torrent. Torrent has chosen you. Treat him with respect.
Alright, so a few things about Melina before we end this episode. Melina is a name that means honey, or having the color of honey. It can also mean having the color of tree fruit, but it's this pale yellow color. The ancient Greeks associated it with death and had a goddess named Melina, who was not as kind and sweet as the Melina that we see before us today. And most of what we know about this goddess is that she was named for this sort of pale, sickly color of illness or death. And then we have this poem. I call upon Melina, saffron-cloaked nymph of the earth, who revered Persephone, born by the mouth of the Cocytus River, upon the sacred bed of Cronian Zeus, in the guise of Pluton Zeus, and Pluton Zeus here is Hades. Tricked Persephone, and through wily plots bedded her. A two-bodied specter sprang forth from Persephone's fury. This specter drives mortals to madness with her airy apparitions as she appears in weird shapes and strange forms. Now plain to the eye, now shadowy, now shining in the darkness. All this in unnerving attacks in the gloom of night. O goddess, O queen of those below, I beseech you to banish the soul's frenzy to the end of the earth and show to the initiates a kindly and holy face. So, to sort of expand on this, Melina was born of Persephone after Zeus tricked her into thinking that he was Hades, and slept with her. And from her fury was born this character Melina. And this person is a product of fury and is constantly attacking people in dreams and nightmares. She has this sort of dual nature where on the one hand she's supposed to be this kindly, sweet appearing person, and on the other she's supposed to be this, terrifying goddess. And we see this theme again in another place in Norse myth, where there's Hel, who is the goddess of the underworld, who in one form is this beautiful, radiant being, and in the other is just this hideous monster with, like, the Pale of Death on her. So, anyway, my point is that this Melina character, even though she is very kind to us throughout the game, appears to have sort of a dual nature.
Shall I
and we'll
turn
come
your
back to that.
runes to strength?
But let us
my hand rest upon you. For but a moment,
level up.
share them with me. Your thoughts, your ambitions, the principles you would follow.
And I'm going to grab 2 of those smaller runes that we got to level up my vigor at least once. We can go ahead, we can equip. Oh, not quite. Oh, I messed that up. Well, we can equip the straight sword at least, which is a little better than what we were using. And join me next episode where we undertake the search for pants.